A very comfortable kind of forum that you are attending. It's not a common audience. Yeah. Okay. So I would like to salute your courage to be here, and thank you very much. And you're going to face, a barrage of questions later on. And we can see Siti Kasim at the back over there, and I expect her to raise a question direct to you later on. And I understand that Dr. Ambiga Sreneevasan has to leave early, but I hope that you could share your view on this important topic. Especially this is the most recognizable face probably in this country, right? And probably enemy of the state number one. With that, welcome.
Thank you. Hello, thank you very much, Dr. Farouk. Let me just start by saying I'm not sure whether we are heading towards becoming a failed state or whether we're already a failed state. Simply because our institutions are not working. And that to me is very, very serious. The fact that you can't go to any one institution and expect absolute people to judge your situation fairly and for your institutions to act accordingly. I think we have a serious problem, and this isn't something that's happened overnight. It's been going on for a long time. I remember in 1988 when the judicial crisis took place, a lot of Malaysians actually didn't appreciate the effect of undermining the judiciary. The lawyers did, and I remember the bar were one of those few voices that were speaking up about this. But then a lot of people didn't understand the effect of undermining the judiciary because the economy was doing well, people were happy, so they just said, let it go. But we're seeing the effects now, actually, and it'll continue. And my concern is that if we do not reverse all these ill effects on our institutions right now, that I'm not sure whether we can get back up that slippery slope. I mean, we're sliding down, and I have a serious concern about that. So, for me, I think that is our biggest challenge. Biggest challenge both for politicians and for civil society. I also just want to quickly, and Dr. Zul, I mean, we are very good friends, by the way, and we do have raging arguments over these things, but we're still friends, and that's what it's about. I mean, at the end of the day, that we can argue, we can hammer out our ideas and come to a conclusion that is in the interests of the nation as a whole. But just a couple of points, if I may just say, Dr. Zul, you mentioned that this whole debate about whether we're secular or Islamic is overdone and is unnecessary. As a lawyer, I beg to disagree on that. I think it is critical to ascertain what the status of our federal constitution is, because that was the agreement that all of us entered into when in 1957. That is what represents what our constitution is, and we need to get that right. And I can tell you that if you looked at the Reid Commission report and all the documents surrounding the drafting of the federal constitution, it's very, very clear, absolutely clear, that the intention was that it was secular. It's not stated in the preamble, unlike the Indian constitution, I accept that. But that was the bargain that was struck. And a lot of people feel that when you now want to change the nature of that constitution, you're shifting the goalposts. And I think the problem is when it is done through the back door, as opposed to going to Parliament, getting your 2/3 majority to amend the constitution. I mean, if you want to change the constitution, that's how you would do it. But then there's also another legal argument about that, which is whether you can actually change the constitution to such an extent that you destroy its basic structure. For example, if you want to go to Parliament, if you want to go to Parliament and say we're going to remove one of the institutions, cabinet, we're going to change that, or we're going to become something else, can you do it in the context of the constitution that we have? Anyway, all that is very legalistic. I'm sure you're not very interested, but what I'm trying to say is this: you got to do it right. if you want to change the way of life of this nation, you've got to do it the proper way. Now, I also think that, and by the way, secular is not a bad word, for goodness sakes. I really wish everybody would stop treating it like it's a bad word. Secular is a good word because it allows for everyone's right to practice their religion as they see fit. And I always give this example. In India, you now have a Hindu party. So all the other religions, we're very pleased that India has a secular constitution, because that means their rights to practice freely their religion will never be affected. So we have to think these things through before we make this argument. The other thing I would say about the Islamic State and Muslim nation issue is our leaders have got all their terms mixed up. Islamic State is a legal construct, okay? Secular state is a legal construct, but they keep mixing things up, which is why Dr. Meredith got it completely wrong when he said we're an Islamic state. You can say we're an Islamic Muslim nation, that's different. That's not an Islamic state. The Islamic state means the laws are, and the courts are, and you're governed by Islamic laws. Everyone is. So I think, quite frankly, our politicians really got to get their terms right before they open their mouths. Actually, they've got to get a lot right before they open their mouths. In fact, it'd be best if they didn't speak at this point in time. So I think we need to be clear-cut about that. And we need to respect the Constitution, I think. And I think one of the issues, and here is where hudud was one of the issues that came up. And look, I think having given talks on hudud, I appreciate totally how very strongly some people feel personally about hudud, and which is why our debate about hudud has to be respectful. But we must have a debate about hudud. It cannot be pushed through without proper discussion. And I think picking up from Dr. Zhu, where you say allow us the space, I agree. I think everybody should be allowed the space. But one of the ways in which hudud was being rushed through recently by PAS didn't look as if they were allowing for any debate, and they certainly weren't giving space to the fellow Muslims. You may give us space, that's not enough. You need to give your fellow Muslims the space to speak about hudud. But what they are told is, you have no choice. You have no choice because this is what the Quran says. And in fact, Dr. Zul, you mentioned many mistakes in the Sharia, but you see, if it's a God-given law, as you say it is, why are there mistakes? Why are there differences between Kelantan and Terengganu legislation if it's a God-given law? I think they forget intervention of man, okay? And men are completely fallible, all right? So, hence the necessity for debate. So I hope part of Harapan Baru's, manner of approaching the public, etc., is to allow even your fellow Muslims to have their say. Because otherwise then this is meaningless. And I think one thing though I will say, the positive side of this is, I have actually been invited to a panel at which she's spoken, and a couple of other panels, and I know Ikram and other organizations like that are actually talking about hudud for the first time. There's actually a discussion not just with Muslims but non-Muslims over hudud. And that's wonderful, because I think just as we should appreciate how strongly you feel, I think it's important you appreciate our anxieties. And you can't tell us it doesn't affect us. Of course it affects us. Of course it affects us, because if the crime is committed, we could be a victim. There's many areas in which we would be affected. But you know what? It doesn't matter whether we are affected or not. As a Malaysian citizen, we have every right to talk about a possible system that may eventually impact the country. So I think that's where these are the principles that are important. Now, going back to the issue of civil society and our role, I think there's no doubt civil society has made a huge difference in this country. I'm so proud and I'm honored actually to have been a part of that. I was actually with the Malaysian bar, and we follow certain, we follow strictly on the law. Becoming an activist is a different ball game altogether. So, and I was very honored to lead Bersih twice. But what made Bersih powerful and what made Bersih stand out, where everyone took part, there was no difference between gender, between races, nothing, there were no religious, nothing, no differences, because the cause was common to all of us. And nothing unites more than a common cause. Also, nothing unites more than a common enemy. But we will put that aside. We're not saying the government is our enemy here. But they think we're their enemy. That's the problem. So I think civil society has made a huge difference. Because you know what? The government may well be able to ignore 5 people, 10 people, 100, even 1,000. They cannot ignore nearly 200,000 people on the street. And in fact, it did make a difference. Everybody asked me this question. What difference is it going to make? Bersih for what difference is it going to make? I said, you'll be surprised. We have already been making a difference. Things have been changing. People who've hated us may well join us this time, by the way, on the 29th of August. So, you know why? Because we are just focused on democratic reform. We want a better Malaysia. Nobody can accuse us of doing something or asking for something that is against the interests of the nation. It is entirely to promote the interests of the nation. And if we are steadfast in that, then, it isn't a question of who we're for or against or whatever. It doesn't matter. It is really just going guns blazing for your cause to improve the future of this country. And honestly, the elections, the last elections were completely flawed. There's no doubt in my mind. There's so much of evidence. Now you've seen it. Look at the funding that went into the elections. They're now admitting, yes, it all went into the elections. Okay? Something they denied. Oh no, our election's free and fair and so on and so forth. Well, you bought the elections. And we could see it. If you all cast your minds back to 2013, you will remember the kind of money that was poured. Remember Penang and getting Sai and all this. Where did that money come from? Now we have an idea where all that came from. Of course, the other thing is they keep calling it a donation, not realizing that donation is illegal too. Within the context of the MACC, the Anti-Corruption Act. So here you are, the illegality of all these issues that have been going on. I mean, now I'm talking about 1MDB and I'm going to talk about parliamentary democracy. The illegality that has surrounded all these transactions from start to finish is escaping our politicians. They have actually come out and admitted, they're making admissions left, right and center because they're interested in the political, what is the political effect of that, rather than the legal effect. So I'm saying, these are our parliamentarians, and these are people we voted in, but they are ignoring their own laws. They shouldn't be there, actually. So they're running this argument, right, which is completely fraught with legal issues, and presenting it to our public as if that absolves them of any responsibility to account for these monies that are in the account. Now, I mean, there's so many things that are wrong, right? From day one, the Prime Minister ought to have gone on a leave of absence at the very least, because of the severity of the allegations. He doesn't even give up Minister of Finance post, so he is charged, the allegations are financial. And yet nobody in cabinet or anyone else sees fit to say, Mr. Prime Minister, you really ought to give up at least Minister of Finance portfolio. No. Instead of which he carries on being in charge of all our money. Okay? So, I can tell you in a true democracy this won't happen. If you truly believe in a democracy, this is not the way it happens. So what do? They come after the rest of us, who have been fighting for parliamentary democracy for the longest time. They come after us and say, you are undermining parliamentary democracy. What a joke. I say to them, they are undermining parliamentary democracy. They have been guilty of undermining democracy for the longest time. And I would say to them too, those who are coming after us, trying to use this law, this ridiculous law, which is ridiculous by the way anyway, it shouldn't even be there, as you said. It's a confusing law. It shouldn't even be there. They are saying that by criticizing the government, you are undermining parliamentary democracy. Well, I say to them, by being corrupt, you are undermining parliamentary democracy. By not calling for an emergency parliamentary session in matters which are serious, you are undermining parliamentary democracy. And frankly, I think they are driving us, and also by interfering with all our institutions, you are undermining democracy in this country, not us. We are fighting for it. So, what I would say then is, at this point in time, Malaysians, I think I probably strayed way off the topic, but never mind. I think everyone is talking about it anyway, right? I think what we are seeing, everybody is talking about failed states. So whether we are already there or we're heading there, that's a matter of opinion. But there is no doubt that we're on that slippery slope at the very least. People are just sick of the bluff, I think, right? You get MACC officers who are transferred, then you get the Deputy Prime Minister coming out and saying, oh, administrative, do we look stupid? Seriously, do we really look stupid? Okay? And they say these things not for us. We're not the audience, okay? The target audience, they think, are the people in the rural areas. Well, I have news for them. They're not stupid either. Okay? And I think they should, it is time really for them to take stock of what they're doing to this country. I also know that maybe internationally, we may not, people still see us as a moderate nation, progressive, etc., etc. I'm not sure that we still have that reputation. It doesn't matter. The point is we need to fix our house. And civil society plays such a strong role in that. Because we, as Dr. Zul pointed out, we don't have to worry about votes, thank God. And frankly, with parliamentarians also, that shouldn't make a huge difference either. We need to come to the stage, we're not there yet, where MPs are not just playing politics, where MPs are not just concerned about votes, where they are not being populist. I think kudos to the opposition, whatever their problems right now, and I hope they fix their problems. But they have actually also done their part in raising some of these issues. But civil society is so critical because we hold the balance. We are on neither side. We're as critical of the opposition as we are of the government. Because we only want what is good for the nation. We have no other agenda, as it were, not for vote buying, for votes, etc., not vote buying. See, I'm getting used to vote buying. I'm so used to saying it because that's what our, those Barisan MPs are so used to doing. By the way, they've admitted that. When you read some of the things that they're saying, they actually have made admissions, serious admissions of this nature, which is where I'm saying they don't even understand what laws we have in place. But never mind, that's something else. So what I would say is this, that I think the role of civil society, don't forget, in India, what was interesting was, you've heard of the Aam Aadmi Party, I'll finish with this, the Aam Aadmi Party, which was the anti-corruption party, right? They were an NGO. Anna Hazare, he went on a fast, and because there's so massive corruption in India, that they had to, they had an NGO, and which went down very well. Then they decided to become a political party, going on the platform of anti-corruption, being anti-corruption. So what was interesting was, they did win, in fact they won in Delhi and so on, they did win in many places, but they're still very small. But what was interesting was, people came back to India from outside the country to help this party. because they were so sick to death of the corruption there. The support that they got was massive. But of course, they're very small, so they don't perhaps have quite the same reach. But it's interesting. So I don't know, maybe there will be a place for civil society organizations if these guys don't get, including, Harapan Baru, don't get their act together. Maybe they have to step up to the plate, maybe they have to provide an alternative. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But what I wish Harapan Baru well. I know the people in it, they're good people. I've worked with them. I have no doubt that they have the interests of the nation at heart. I have no doubt at all. And I think what would be really good to see is in this country, the opposition being an effective whole. To me, fighting with each other and squabbling is just making them into a joke, and I think they really need to wake up to that people are quite irritated with that. But now they're talking, because now we're hearing what their policies are likely to be, how they're going to approach, and I think, Dr. Zul, we need to hear that actually from Harapan Baru, because people are still not very clear. They're not very clear as to where you stand on some of the key issues, including hudud. You have to deal with it. Whether you are going to allow for further discussion, and it's something that you can have a moratorium on until everyone, has time and space to talk about it. Perhaps that's one way in which you can handle it. Because shoving things like hudud down our throats is not a good idea. And we need to hear that from you, actually. Thank you.